What separates a good leg exercise from a great one? Check out the top 10 picks for leg day. As much as you may have wanted to see them here, leg extensions and curls didn't make the cut for this list of the top 10 best leg exercises. In fact, while they can be useful towards the end of your workout, they probably aren't even among the top 20 because a single joint move just don't deliver much bang for your training buck. Across the board, multi-joint leg exercises tops the list. In addition to recruiting more muscle mass into the movement, multi-joint exercises generate greater release for the muscle-building hormones testosterone and growth hormone. The amount of muscle called into play is critical on leg day because there are so many large muscle groups involved: the glutes, quads, hamstrings and calves. And that list doesn't even include stabilizer muscles that are also recruited into many multi-joint movements. As with the best exercise list for the chest and back, which are, guess where, linked below, so check them out, EMG studies are used here to see which exercises work your muscles to the max. But remember, choosing the right movement is only half the battle. You must also load it correctly and do the requisite number of sets to maximize its training stimulus. Always start your leg routine with the most challenging exercise that allows you to push the most weight. This list could easily have included 10 types of squats, so instead we went with just a few versions. After all, you're not going to do a workout that includes just squat variations unless you're feeling particularly crazy. Squats are the king because they are simply the most challenging leg movements you can do, especially when loaded appropriately. They work all the lower body musculature, where counting glutes, have been shown to spike muscle building hormone release. In fact, we even know that squatting before doing curls had been shown to significantly improve arm strength. Although high bar squat and low bar squat are a bit different, bodybuilders typically use the high bar squat, in which the bar rests atop the traps, which hits all the leg musculature fairly even. Powerlifters prefer the low version, in which the bar instead sits further down atop the real delts, since this variation slightly shifts the body's center of gravity such that the glutes take up more of the workload, which immediately allows the lifter to use more weight. Biomechanically, these two versions are completely different animals. With a high bar squat, the torso stays more vertical and increases the knee movement away from the center of gravity. This places a greater load on the quads. A low bar squat has a greater torso lean and increases the hip movement away from the center of gravity, thus placing a greater stress on the glutes. In all variations, the depth of the squat is determined by your ability to maintain a neutral spline, as well as tightness in your hip flexors and tightness in your calves. If you round your back before reaching 90 degrees in your hips, stop at that point and reverse directions. Rounding your lower back can injure your discs, especially if you are using a heavy weight. You are not restricted to one type or other, so feel free to use either movement in your workout, though you wouldn't typically include both of them on the same training day. Some individuals find that squats build their butts well, but they really need help building their quads. If that's you, try the front squats. By shifting the bar from the back to the front of the body, even just 6 to 8 inches, you change the relative amount of muscle loading that occurs. Front squats emphasize the quads over the glutes and hams, which means you'll sacrifice some of the load. This movement generally requires some pretty serious upper back and core strength to maintain a neutral spline and keep you from missing weights. Don't be surprised if adding this into your workout routine beef ups your back as well. Also, with front squats, you naturally maintain a much more vertical position, which may decrease the risk of low back injury. Movements like snatches and power cleans take some serious dedication and technique to master, but they can be unrevealed when you are trying to improve jumping power or squat strength. In fact, one scientific study found a nearly 18% greater improvement in squat 1 rep max after following an Olympic-based program compared to traditional powerlifting program. While the rep ranges aren't usually done in the golden range for hypertrophy, the large amount of muscle mass used and high intensities may increase testosterone release. Deadlifts and deadlift variations like sumo are considered whole-body exercises, especially for the posterior chain, which includes the hamstring and glutes. But there is quad activation in this movement as well, mainly observed in the sumo deadlift. Because you can use a tremendous amount of weight, you'll see strength improvement in all these areas. And because of the amount of muscle mass that's engaged in this movement, this exercise can incur a nice hormonal response as well. By the way, check the video below where the deadlifts are also made the other top 10 lists. This one is deceptively difficult, partly because of balance and partly because you're training one side at a time. The Bulgarian split squat is essentially a split squat, but your rear leg is elevated, which forces the front leg to pick up more of the workload. Try it on a Smith machine if you find it difficult to balance the weight. When done right, this movement is devastating to your quads. In fact, some EMG evidence suggested that 4 sets using 10 rep max with Bulgarians aren't too different from back squats. The same study also found similar testosterone response between Bulgarians and back squats. Machine exercises don't rank high on the top 10 lists because they control the pathway for you, meaning stabilizing muscles take a back seat. In addition, the hormone boost they generate just doesn't compare to the free weight ones. That's one reason to do them later in your leg training session when your thighs are already fatigued. However, one of the primary benefits of the back squat is that you can manipulate foot placement. High placement allows you to descend further, which emphasizes the glutes and hamstrings. A lower placement means the quads take up a greater percentage of the workload. A placement slightly forward of the hips may be the most comfortable. It's also easier to spot on machine exercises and use advanced techniques like forced reps and drop sets because you don't have to worry about collapsing under a weight. While you can do reverse hugs on this machine in which you're facing towards the apparatus, that version offers very little spinal protection and is not recommended unless you really know what you're doing. Like all the movements listed thus far, multi-joint lunges requires hip and knee extension, which gives you the stimulus for the thighs and glutes. They can be done standing in place or stepping forward or backwards. Decide for yourself which style of variations you prefer. You can also choose between a barbell and dumbbells. Dumbbells are more preferred because of the ease of getting into and out of the start position and the decreased likelihood of knocking something down when doing the walking version down the weight room floor. Lunges are best done when your legs are pre-fatigued, so moderate load works particularly well for this exercise. Step forward far enough that you go straight down when you descend rather than leaning forward. For knee health, keep the knees behind an imaginary line that comes up from your toes when stepping forward and drive the weights back up through your midfoot. For those of you hoping leg presses could replace squats in your leg workout, the divide between the two movements can't be overstated. Because the leg press recruits less muscle mass than squats, it simply doesn't generate the same degree of testosterone release, nor is the body position here particularly functional, unless your log cabin collapses and your only way out is pushing the timber forward. Like hack squats, however, the leg presses allows for a variety of foot positions, effectively enabling you to target weaknesses such as the teardrops or outer thighs. Be careful not to lower the sled too far though. Doing so will lift your glutes up off the butt pad and cause your lower spine to curl. A rounded back puts you at risk for an injury. This upper hamstring/glute exercise is unlike most others because you can really overload it. Plus, most hamstring routines focus on the leg curl movements, which center around the knee joint, but this one works from the hip joint. It's vastly underutilized in most trainees' workouts. In other reasons, it's a good place in this top 10 list. The Romanian deadlift is probably one of the trickiest exercises you'll ever learn to do, and learning good form is imperative. More often than not, this exercise has been seen and done incorrectly. You never want to allow your lower back to round. For newcomers to squatting, the machine squat offers a degree of safety while learning the movement pattern. Machine movements also work well when done later in your workout when your legs are fried and you need an assist with balancing the weight. If you're advanced and using this as your squat of choice, you're probably not choosing the right version of the movement. So what do you think of the list? Got anything to change or to add? Would you place them differently in the list? Please share your opinion down below in the comments.